Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is the Vulgar Marxist. I'm aware that I had promised you a Paul Krugman video this month, and I would have loved to have done that if circumstances had not intervened. If there is one thing I utterly and absolutely enjoy, it is having to clean up other people's messes, and in this case, we are cleaning up Sargon's. Now, I am going to have a very difficult time remaining calm during the video you're about to watch, as it is so utterly and grotesquely ridiculous. I can't even begin. That Sargon did such a ham-fisted job debunking it is a testimony only to how intellectually vapid he is, and it is really sad that one of the paragons of the classical left cannot even handle this.
Doesn't it seem like some white men are really angry lately?
Not all white men.
I said some. According to precarious man theory, when men don't feel masculine, they tend to act out in stereotypical gendered ways, which is why you're getting pushback from the men in your life for just existing. But it's not you. It's white men. They're a little fragile right now. Here's why.
There is an African proverb that I absolutely love. If you do not initiate your young men into your culture, they will come back and burn down the village to keep themselves warm. Yes, the social compact is a very, very fragile thing. If people get it into their head that society in which they live does nothing to benefit them, they will burn that society to the ground and build a new one that does benefit them. This person is about to declare that not only ought men to receive no benefit from society, but will later go on to declare that no one ought to benefit from society. We'll get there eventually, but frankly, when I finished this video, I was flabbergasted that anyone could be this unfathomably obtuse.
See, white men used to be able to raise a family, buy a house, and retire on one salary, their own.
Allow me to assure you, I and every young woman interested in being a stay-at-home mother is painfully aware of the fact that men's wages have collapsed to the point where they are no longer able to support a non-working partner or any number of children. Why the person in question thinks this should be celebrated, I have no idea, but what is also notable is that both African American men and African American women were well on their way to enjoying the same standard of living that European American men enjoyed. The only group who wasn't advancing was European American women. They were going absolutely nowhere. But instead of enhancing this advancement, we seem to be celebrating its destruction. Why is that?
But thanks to growing income inequality, that's something white men can't do anymore. And that's throwing off some really comfy gender norms.
Yes, because income inequality happened all on its own and has absolutely no relation to anything anyone happened to go do.
You know what else white men can't do anymore? Afford to keep a full-time spouse at home, have job security, depend on federal mortgage programs to help them buy a house, and rely on subsidized, high-quality health care, subsidized retirement programs, and Social Security.
So the handful of successes the nascent socialist program in the United States managed to win have been systematically destroyed. And what is this individual who claims to be a left-winger going to say about this?
These entitlement programs were part of the privilege of being a white man.
This person chooses to define the hard-won victories of socialist reformers as if they are some massive and horrifying detriment to their fellow citizens. Who is hurt by any of those? I'm serious. Who's hurt by Social Security? Who's hurt by universal health care? No one but the rich. We'll get back to that shortly.
And it must be enraging to watch them slowly slip away at the hands of growing income inequality. But you know who else is angry? Women and people who aren't white.
Over what? You screwing yourselves out of the prosperity 2/3 of you were headed for? I mean, let me repeat, African Americans were well on their way to wage parity with European American men. They were almost there. So what precisely are you angry about? You were about to have what you wanted, and for some reason you threw a hissy fit for no reason at all and proceeded to demolish everything we had worked for 2 centuries to build. For what, if I might ask?
See, we've been excluded from these programs for longer than we've been included in them. And we're really mad about it too. So I say welcome, white men. You've officially joined the Fucked Over Club. You can now join the ranks of most of the United States.
Okay, first of all, that statement is empirically false. No one is excluded from Social Security. No one is excluded from Medicaid or Medicare. No one is excluded from housing vouchers, not since the 1960s. This statement is empirically and objectively false. Now, let us proceed. Instead of expanding the programs so everyone might enjoy them, the programs we worked over and over and over again to have, your solution is to smash them for everyone and replace them with nothing.
We get that you're angry, and while it's not our fault, we can totally empathize with your loss of privileges, even though we've never had them.
First of all, it is your fault. You are the ones who chose to flood the market with too many workers with no coherent plan as to how to get a proportional number of men to leave the labor force without worrying about freezing and starving to death. And second of all, you were never excluded from these programs. No one was excluded from these programs. Please, cite history. Who was excluded?
But don't listen to me, an angry lesbian. Let a white man tell you the exact same thing.
The man you are about to see is going to engage in a series of rapid-fire obfuscations and full-on lies, and I will try and keep pace as quickly as I can. This is going to get pretty choppy.
Once upon a time, we had 98% of all of the positions of power, and now we only have like 88%, and we think, oh my God, women are taking over.
Anyone even passingly familiar with Marxism should understand that simply because people of a certain ethnicity or gender happen to be in control is of no bearing to people of the same ethnicity or gender who are not in control.
This is Dr. Michael Kimmel. He's one of the world's leading experts on men and masculinity.
Once upon a time, the whole world was a locker room. The boardroom of the company was a locker room. The operating theater in the hospital was a locker room. The law firm was a locker room. The military was a locker room. The locker room was a locker room.
The average salary of a factory worker in 1860, calculated against inflation, comes to approximately $8,500 per year. What is your point?
Everywhere you went, it was all guys. But now, women have entered every single one of those arenas.
When the supply of a commodity increases, its price falls. This is 101 level economics. How someone with a doctorate does not get this, I do not understand.
Change in our lives has taken place so bewilderingly fast that so many men feel like, what happened? And now you're getting all the advantages. Women are getting everything.
All evidence to the contrary.
The guys who are the angriest are the ones who said, I made a bargain with this society. And it was the same bargain my father made and my grandfather made. I will be a good man. I will be a good husband. I will be a good father. I will work really hard. I will pay my taxes. And in return for that, I should be able to support a family by myself and buy my own house in which to raise my children.
Yes, Mr. Kimmel, this is called a social compact. In return for men doing all of these things you define as good, they expect to receive all of the materials, tools, and resources necessary to do them. My obligation to agree with society as to what is good is contingent entirely on society providing me the resources necessary to do those things. I don't have to agree with society about what's good. I could do the bare minimum necessary to feed myself and care less about my wife and children. I could break lots of laws. I could do all kinds of drugs. I could be a thoroughly rotten and unreasonable person. Is that what you would prefer? For men to be rotten?
And what's happened, of course, economically is that is very unlikely these days. Because you're angry right now, white men, it doesn't mean that women are going to have some kind of V8 moment where they go, oh my God, you know what, they were right. Let's stop working, let's stop voting, let's stop driving cars, let's stop serving on juries, let's stop having orgasms. It's just not worth it. It's not going to happen. It's a done deal. So
you're right. It's not going to be women. It's going to be men. It's going to be men who suddenly work 30, 20 hours a week to feed themselves. It's going to be men who demand the abolition of alimony and child support because they don't feel like working those extra hours. It's going to be men who can't be asked to pay attention to the platforms of parties as long as those parties guarantee them that the nasty, awful people trying to take their video games away will be stopped. It's going to be men who stop graduating college, stop graduating high school, demand a universal basic income so they never have to work again. In the 4 years since Gamergate happened, I honestly don't think these people have realized what the heck was going on. A generation of men is rapidly coming to the conclusion that what is happening on their video game console is more important than what is happening in society around them, because society guarantees them nothing.
So we men have a choice. We can be dragged kicking and screaming into the future, or we can say, this is a completely different world. What's in it for us?
This man is about to engage in a rapid-fire series of lies. And this is going to be pretty quick, so I encourage you to stop the video and look at what I post.
What's in it for white men?
What's in it for white men? All of the available evidence suggests that the more gender equal our relationships are, the better our health.
Lie. For the first time in 30 years, the life expectancy is falling.
The better our relationships with our partners, spouses, and friends.
Also a lie. Anyone familiar with marriage statistics would know marriage has been declining since feminism started.
The better our children do in school.
The graduation rate for men from college stagnated in the 1970s and has been declining slowly ever since.
The happier countries are.
The suicide rate for both men and women has been increasing since the advent of intersectional feminism.
The better corporations do.
Oh, look, it wasn't all lies. He made a true statement. Feminism benefits corporations.
This is a win-win all the way around. We have come to this idea that gender equality is a zero-sum game. And if women win, men are going to lose. The reality is, when women win, men win as well.
I would like to take this opportunity to expound on the subject of sums. There are 3 kinds of sums. Positive sum, in which the pie gets larger. Zero sum, in which the pie remains the same size. And negative sum, in which the pie gets smaller. And it is relatively easy to tell which sum you're dealing with. If you are dealing with a positive sum, there is no reason anyone needs to be harmed. There is no reason why there should be adverse effects to anyone at all. To use the recent kerfuffle in Magic the Gathering as an example, if one person has 1,000 cards and another person has 300 cards, then you simply print 700 more cards, and they both have the same number of cards. However, at the start of this video, the woman flatly conceded that men not only have been harmed, but have been massively harmed, as does the graph we are currently looking at. So, this necessarily rules out the possibility that feminism is positive sum, as if it were positive sum, there would be no reason for men to have any adverse impact to them whatsoever at all. The gentleman we just saw has flatly stated that feminism cannot be zero sum. So what then does that leave? If it cannot be positive sum, and it cannot be zero sum, it must be negative sum. Why would a movement that continually howls for positions of power and authority set up a system whereby everyone else gets less, thus forcing the wealth into the hands of those with power and authority? Can't think of a reason that would happen. Just must be escaping me or something.
So that's why white men are so angry. Their position in society is changing fast, and they've never had a chance to reevaluate it.
Allow me to assure you, they are reevaluating it faster than you could possibly imagine.
It must suck to have your previously very stable identity feel so fragile. But does this mean we let white male fragility and anger hold us hostage?
Hostage is not what it's going to be holding you.
Nope. It means we continue to challenge men on their behavior, support masculinity that doesn't benefit from putting others down, and encourage men to support each other.
In return for what, might I ask? You don't actually believe they'll care about anything you have to say when you guarantee them nothing in return, do you?
But not before we welcome them to the pissed off party. So the next time you see an angry white guy, say, "Welcome to the club." You totally understand how hard it is to lose rights and privileges most people never had. And while you didn't take these things from him, you're totally down for being angry together to make sure everyone benefits this next time around.
And by everyone, she means the elite handful at the top, cherry-picked by the feminists.